My brother's face went white when the lawyer stood up at the will reading. Not our family attorney. Mine. The one I'd hired 2 years ago when Dad first asked me to help him plan for the future. "Before we proceed," she said, sliding a folder across the conference table, "I need to clarify that Mitchell Landscaping was transferred to the family trust 18 months ago, with sole ownership designated to one beneficiary." She looked at me. "That beneficiary is present in this room." My brother grabbed the folder, flipped it open, stared at the signatures. Dad's handwriting, shaky but clear. My name on every page. His hand started trembling. "This can't be right," he said. "Dad would never give the business to her. She's 26 years old." The lawyer's voice was calm. "Mr. Mitchell was fully competent when he made this decision. The cognitive evaluation is included in your packet." My brother looked at me with pure hatred. "You manipulated him. You poisoned him against me while he was dying." I met his eyes. Steady. Calm. "No, Kevin. I just showed up. Every single day. While you were too busy to visit. Let me take you back. Because this story isn't about a landscaping company or a will. It's about being told your whole life that you don't count, and proving everyone wrong in a way they can never deny. If you've ever been dismissed because of your age, if you've ever had family assume you couldn't handle responsibility, if you've ever worked twice as hard to earn half the respect, this story is for you." My father started Mitchell Landscaping when I was 3 years old. A pickup truck, a lawnmower, and a dream. By the time I was in high school, it had grown into a real company. 15 employees, commercial contracts, a fleet of trucks. Dad built it from nothing through pure determination and 18-hour days. My brother Kevin is 8 years older than me. Growing up, he was supposed to be the one who took over. The son, the heir. Dad talked about it at every family dinner. "Kevin will run this place someday. Keep the Mitchell name going." Kevin nodded along and never questioned it. Neither did anyone else. I was just the little sister, the afterthought, the one who helped with filing during summer breaks because nobody expected anything more from me. But here's what nobody noticed. While Kevin was at college partying his way through a business degree, I was actually learning the business. Not from textbooks, from dirt. From showing up at job sites at 6 a.m. with Dad, because I wanted to understand what he'd built. From riding in the truck, while he explained why we bid certain contracts and walked away from others. From watching him negotiate with suppliers, handle difficult clients, manage crews who'd worked for him longer than I'd been alive. I absorbed everything. Not because anyone asked me to, because I loved it. Kevin graduated when I was 14, moved back home, was supposed to learn the ropes and eventually take over. Instead, he treated the company like his personal ATM, took a salary for showing up twice a week, spent company money on client entertainment that looked suspiciously like golf trips with his buddies, made promises to Dad about bringing in new business, growing the commercial side, modernizing operations, delivered nothing. Year after year, nothing. I graduated high school at 18 with a plan. Community college for business administration, work at Mitchell Landscaping part-time, learn everything I could. I told Dad I wanted to be involved for real, not just filing paperwork. He looked surprised. "You sure, sweetheart, it's hard work. Long hours. Kevin's going to run things eventually." I just nodded. "I'm sure." That first summer after graduation, I worked on a crew, not in the office, in the field, mowing lawns, trimming hedges, hauling mulch in 90-degree heat. The guys didn't know what to make of me at first. The boss's daughter showing up at 6 a.m. in work boots, ready to sweat. Some of them tested me, gave me the worst jobs, had me loading trucks while they stood around smoking, waited for me to complain, waited for me to quit. I didn't quit. I showed up every day, worked harder than anyone, learned how to operate every piece of equipment we owned. By August, they'd stopped treating me like a visitor. I was just another member of the crew. By September, the foreman was asking my opinion on job scheduling. By October, I was training new hires. Kevin thought it was hilarious. "Playing in the dirt, little sis? That's cute. Let me know when you're ready for a real job." He said this from his air-conditioned office, where he spent most days watching YouTube and taking 2-hour lunches. I didn't respond. Just went back to work. Let the results speak. By 20, I'd moved from crew work to crew management. Dad promoted me to supervisor after I turned around our worst-performing team. They'd been behind on every job, hemorrhaging money, client complaints stacking up. I spent 2 weeks figuring out why, rode with them, watched their process, asked questions nobody had asked before. Turned out the previous supervisor was padding hours, and 2 guys were basically getting paid to sit in the truck, while one person did all the work. I documented everything: timesheets, GPS data, client feedback, presented it to Dad in a 30-page report with recommendations. He let me handle it. I fired the supervisor, had a conversation with the 2 slackers that ended with them quitting before I could terminate them. Restructured the team with the 3 guys who actually worked, added 2 hungry new hires, and within a month we were the most profitable crew in the company. Highest productivity, lowest client complaints, best margins. Dad looked at the numbers and didn't say anything at first, just nodded. But I saw something in his eyes I'd never seen before when he looked at me. Respect. Real respect. Not the kind you give a child who brings home a good grade. The kind you give someone who solved a problem you couldn't. Kevin didn't notice. Kevin never noticed anything that didn't directly affect his golf handicap or his bar tab. He was too busy being the heir apparent, the one with the title of Vice President of Operations, and the salary to match. $65,000 a year for doing essentially nothing. Meanwhile, I was making $32,000 as a supervisor, working 50-hour weeks, actually keeping the company running. By 21, I was handling client relations for our biggest accounts. By 22, I was negotiating contracts. I took night classes in accounting so I could understand our financials better than Kevin ever would. Learned QuickBooks, learned payroll software, learned how to read a P&L statement and know exactly where we were bleeding money. The moment everything changed happened at Thanksgiving when I was 22. We were at my parents' house. Kevin had just come back from a business conference in Scottsdale that Dad had paid for. He was tanned, relaxed, telling stories about the connections he'd made. Dad was nodding along, proud of his son. I mentioned that I'd landed our biggest commercial contract ever while Kevin was gone. A property management company with 43 properties across the county. I'd been working on them for 6 months. Presentations, site visits, competitive bids. They'd finally signed that morning. $120,000 in annual revenue, our single biggest account. Dad smiled. "That's great, honey. Kevin, tell us about the guy from Phoenix." Kevin launched into a story about some contractor he'd met at the hotel bar. I sat there holding my fork, watching my father's face light up at Kevin's worthless networking while my 6 months of work got dismissed in 3 words. "That's great, honey," like I'd brought home a good report card. Not landed a contract that would change our company's trajectory. After dinner, Kevin found me in the kitchen. I was washing dishes. He leaned against the counter, drink in hand, watching me. "You know this doesn't change anything, right?" I kept scrubbing. "What do you mean?" "The contract, the promotion, all of it. You're not getting the company, Natalie. That's not how this works." I turned off the water, looked at him. "How does it work?" He smiled. That smug smile I'd seen my entire life. "I'm the son. I'm the one with the degree. I'm the one Dad's been grooming for this. You're just the little sister who likes playing in the dirt. You don't deserve Dad's business. You never will. Something in me went cold. Not hurt, not angry. Just clear. Crystal clear. Okay, Kevin. If that's what you think. I went home that night and started keeping records. Every contract I landed. Every crisis I solved. Every hour Kevin didn't show up. Every dollar his business development lost versus every dollar my operations earned. I didn't know what I'd do with it. But I knew someday it would matter. 2 years later, Dad collapsed at a job site. Heart attack. He survived, but barely. 63 years old, and his body was telling him to slow down. During his recovery, I ran Mitchell Landscaping alone. Completely alone. Kevin visited the hospital 3 times in 6 weeks. Didn't come to the office once. Said he was coordinating from home, which meant he was posting on Instagram about how hard it was having a sick parent, while I worked 16-hour days keeping everything running. Crews still needed to be dispatched. Clients still needed updates. Payroll still needed to be processed. Contracts still needed to be fulfilled. I did all of it. 24 years old, running a company with 18 employees and over $1 million in annual revenue, while my brother posted sympathy fishing selfies from his living room. When Dad finally came home, he was different, quieter. He asked me to come over one Sunday morning. Just us. Mom was at church. Kevin was wherever Kevin always was. We sat on the back porch, looking at the yard he'd landscaped himself 30 years ago. The trees he'd planted when he was younger than I was now. I need to talk to you about the business, he said. I waited. Your brother said something to me once, at Thanksgiving, couple years back. Said you don't deserve this company. That you're just the little sister playing in the dirt. My chest tightened. He'd said it to Dad, too. Is that what you think? I asked. Dad looked at me. Really looked. I think your brother is a goddamn fool. And I think I've been a fool, too, for not seeing what was right in front of me. He reached into his jacket and pulled out a folder. I've been talking to a lawyer, not our family attorney. Someone new. I want to set up a trust. Transfer the business to you while I'm still alive. Make it official. Make it so Kevin can't touch it when I'm gone. I stared at him. 18 employees, he continued. $1.2 million in revenue. 43 commercial accounts. You know who built that? You did. While Kevin was at conferences and golf courses, you were here. Every day, every problem. Every opportunity. I see you, Natalie. I should have said it years ago. I started crying. Couldn't help it. My whole life, I'd wanted him to see me, to recognize what I'd done. And here he was, finally saying the words. I know you don't need my validation, he said. You've proven yourself 1,000 times over. But I wanted you to hear it anyway. You don't just deserve this business. You are this business. We hired a lawyer named Patricia Webb, specialist in family business succession. She walked us through everything: living trust, transfer of ownership, cognitive evaluation for Dad to prove he was making this decision with full understanding. Every document witnessed, notarized, filed properly. Airtight. The transfer happened quietly over 6 months. Kevin had no idea. He was still collecting his salary, still taking his 2-hour lunches, still assuming he'd inherit everything when Dad was gone. He never thought to ask questions, never thought to check, never thought his little sister could possibly be a threat. Dad passed away 18 months later. Another heart attack. This one took him. I was there when it happened. Holding his hand in the hospital room at 3 a.m., Kevin showed up the next morning, after the nurses had already called time of death. The funeral was beautiful. 150 people, employees who'd worked with Dad for decades. clients who respected him, neighbors who remembered when Mitchell Landscaping was just a guy with a mower and a dream. Kevin gave a eulogy about legacy and family and carrying on our father's work. I sat in the front row and didn't say a word. The will reading was scheduled for the following week. Kevin had been calling the family attorney daily, asking about the estate, about the business, about what he was inheriting. He showed up in a new suit, expecting to walk out as the owner of Mitchell Landscaping. What he didn't know was that I'd already informed the family attorney about the trust, provided documentation, explained that the business wasn't part of the estate because it had been transferred to me 2 years ago. I'd also asked Patricia Webb to attend, not to participate in the estate proceedings, just to answer questions about the business transfer. Kevin had never met her, had no idea she existed. When Patricia stood up and explained that Mitchell Landscaping was already mine, Kevin's face went through 6 expressions in 3 seconds. Confusion, disbelief, rage, then white. Pure white. "This is fraud," he said, voice shaking. Dad was sick. He wasn't thinking clearly. She manipulated him. Patricia slid the cognitive evaluation across the table. "Your father scored in the 93rd percentile. Fully competent. He knew exactly what he was doing." "But I'm his son," Kevin said. Like that was supposed to mean something. Like biology was supposed to override 2 decades of me doing the actual work. "You are," Patricia agreed. "And he chose to leave his business to his daughter." Kevin turned to me, face red with fury. "You did this. You poisoned him against me." I met his eyes. Steady. Calm. Years of dealing with difficult clients had taught me how to stay composed when someone was screaming at me. "I showed up, Kevin. Every day for 8 years. I learned every part of this business from the ground up. Started on a crew hauling mulch in 100-degree heat. Worked my way to supervisor, then operations manager. I grew our revenue by 40%. I landed our biggest contracts. I protected this company through Dad's illness while you visited 3 times in 6 weeks. That's not..." I'm not finished. My voice was calm but firm. "You collected a salary for doing nothing. $65,000 a year for showing up twice a week, taking 2-hour lunches, and playing golf with your friends. You assumed you'd inherit everything because you're the son, because you have a degree, because nobody ever told you that titles don't mean anything if you don't do the work." Kevin's face was purple with rage. Dad was confused. He didn't know what he was signing. "Dad scored in the 93rd percentile on his cognitive evaluation," Patricia said. "The documents are in your packet. He was sharper than most people half his age." "This is bullshit. I'm his firstborn. I'm the one he always talked about taking over. And yet, he chose me." I let that sink in. "He watched you for 8 years, Kevin. Watched you coast. Watched you take. Watched you assume. And he watched me work. In the end, he made his choice based on who actually deserved it." "You don't deserve this," he said. Same words from Thanksgiving. Same contempt. Same inability to see what was right in front of him. "You're just the little sister who plays in the dirt." "I'm the CEO of a company I built with my own hands," I said. "And you're fired." The room went silent. "What?" "Your position at Mitchell Landscaping is terminated. 2 weeks severance. Security will escort you to collect your personal belongings." "You can't do this. I own the company. I can do whatever I want." He turned to our mother. She'd been sitting quietly, dabbing her eyes. "Mom, say something." "This isn't fair." Mom looked at him for a long moment. "Your father talked to me before he did this. I agreed with him. You had 8 years to prove yourself, Kevin. You spent them playing golf. This is what fair looks like." Kevin stormed out, slammed the door so hard a picture fell off the wall. We heard his car peel out of the parking lot, tires squealing. I sat there, hands folded, heart pounding but face calm. Patricia gathered her papers. "He'll contest," she said. "They always do. Expect a call from his attorney within the week." Let him try. Kevin did contest, hired the most expensive attorney he could find, filed papers claiming undue influence and diminished capacity, demanded the trust be invalidated, claimed I'd isolated Dad during his illness, manipulated him, taken advantage of his weakened state. His attorney requested discovery. We provided everything: Dad's cognitive evaluation, the timeline of document preparation, witness statements from the notary, the lawyer, Dad's doctor. Evidence that Dad had initiated the process himself, had been the one to contact Patricia Webb, had made every decision with full understanding of what he was doing. Kevin's case fell apart piece by piece. His own attorney told him to drop it after 2 months. He kept pushing for another 3, burning through money he didn't have, convinced he could find something, anything, to invalidate Dad's choice. He couldn't. The trust was bulletproof. Dad had made sure of that. The case was officially dismissed 8 months after the will reading. Kevin had spent over $40,000 in legal fees, money he'd have to borrow. I didn't feel sorry for him. He'd spent 8 years taking from this company without contributing. This was just the final bill coming due. That was 3 years ago. Mitchell Landscaping now has 31 employees and 4 full crews. Revenue hit $2.3 million last year. We've expanded into commercial maintenance contracts with 3 property management companies, added a design division that does custom landscaping for high-end residential clients, started doing hardscaping, patios, and retaining walls and outdoor kitchens. Margins are up. Client retention is at 92%. We won the Chamber of Commerce Small Business Award last spring. I'm 29 years old and I run every part of it: operations, finance, sales, HR. I hired a real VP of business development last year, someone who actually knows how to land contracts. She brought in more revenue in 6 months than Kevin did in 8 years. I promoted 3 people from within, crew members who showed the same hunger I had when I started. Built a management team that cares about the company as much as I do. Kevin works in insurance sales now, entry-level, commission-based. I heard through a cousin that he's not doing well. Turns out having a VP title handed to you doesn't prepare you for jobs where you actually have to perform. I don't feel satisfaction at his failure. I don't feel anything about him at all. He's just someone I used to know. Someone who couldn't see what was right in front of him until it was too late. We don't speak. Mom tries to get us in the same room for holidays, but I've stopped pretending. Some relationships aren't worth saving. Some people will never see you no matter how much you prove. The only thing you can do is stop needing their approval and start building something they can't take away. I keep a photo on my desk. Dad and me standing in front of our first commercial property, the day I signed my biggest contract. He's smiling. Tired but proud. He saw me when it mattered. Made sure everyone else would have to see me too. My brother said I didn't deserve this business, that I was just the little sister playing in the dirt. He was wrong. I wasn't playing. I was building. And now I own everything he thought was his. If you've ever been dismissed because of your age, this is for you. If you've ever worked twice as hard to earn half the respect, this is for you. If you've ever had family tell you that you don't deserve what you've built with your own hands, this is for you. Sometimes the people closest to you are the last to see your worth. That doesn't mean you don't have it. It means they weren't paying attention. Tell me in the comments. Have you ever been overlooked for something you earned? Did you fight for it or walk away? I read every story. And if you want more stories about people who proved everyone wrong, subscribe. Sometimes the best revenge isn't loud. It's a signature on a trust document that says everything your family refused to.